Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Star Trek Discovery is a CBS show about Michael Burnham and a bunch of space dudes fighting a sort of almost but not quite sentient eye called Control. Episode 12, Through the Valley of Shadows, picks up with all the dudes still reeling from the shock of last week. Michael now feels responsible for her mum's death, for not saving her. But luckily, Mum 2 gets on the holophone to tell her it's okay and sends her virtual hugs. And then Spock comes by to say, "Oh, hi Ma, Michael, it's working time." So it seems that they've worked out that the red lights and the angel aren't actually related. But anyway, so they head through an anomaly, the planet Boreth, which is the place that Ash left his wee babby. And he says he'll sort out a dialogue with the Klingons through his ex, but Mike isn't fooled, she knows something's up with him. And then Ash tells her about the baby, and then she's surprisingly okay with it. But then Ash gets a space text warning him something bad's happened to a Section 31 ship. It didn't check in on time, and that means something's off. So they start to worry. Michael wants to go investigate, so, while Ash is off meeting with Big Mama Klingon, Saru says, it's fine, off you go, whatever. And sends her off with Spock. But when Mama Klingon arrives, it turns out that the monastery that's actually built on some kind of mine that's filled with, have you guessed it? The time crystals. Yeah, it turns out that they know all about that. Klingons have had access to that for ages, but they don't use them because they're sacred or something. Anyway, since Ash is a weird hybrid outcast who's supposed to be dead, and Mama Klingon can't go down for political reasons, the only person left is Pike, and he's going to save the day by risking madness and death and all that good stuff by heading down by himself. He's gets a bit of a cold shoulder by the pale, weird-looking Klingon dude who's in charge, but he perseveres, and he tells that he can go through the trial and see if he can get the thing, but he might suffer, and it'll just break him, and he'll go mad, and it'll probably show him some bad stuff. And it turns out the albino guy who's called Tanavik is actually Ash's son, because the time crystals are weird and do weird timey-wimey stuff. And he's a fully grown man already, and he's devoted his life to protecting the place and the time crystals. And it seems that they're thought of as a myth by the Klingons, but even though they're pretty damn real, as you can see. Anyway, it all goes a bit video gamey as Pike is led past the pillar of past and the pillar of the present, and he's off into the big chamber of crystal future, and he gets another chance to turn back, but he's all good with it and grabs a stone. And then suddenly he's in a training exercise that's gone wrong, and there's a radiation leak, and he gets trapped trying to save a cadet. And then he sees his own future. He's horribly disfigured and really badly disabled on some kind of weird life support chair. Just the way that he was in the original series. And Tanavik tells him that he's still got a chance to stop this future by not taking the stone and going home and just seeing what happens. But our boy Pike just isn't having any of that, because he's a Starfleet officer, and he'll do what needs to be done to save humanity, even if knowing his life's going to go a bit bad in the future. So he takes the stone and seals his fate. Meanwhile, Mikey and Spock arrive at the coordinates of the 31 ship, bickering like siblings do, and then they find the entire ship's crew has been spaced, and there's only one single life sign. So they get the guy on board, and it turns out it's actually someone from back on the Shenzhou, and it turns out he joined Section 31 after all the bad stuff happened in Season 1. And he was doing some kind of virus checks on the computer, and he found that the evil AI control was on it, and then it killed everybody by blowing all the airlocks out, and everyone got sucked out into space and died. And he survived because he had a spacesuit on just in time. But they end up wanting to go back to the ship and catch the AI, and naturally he's hell no, but they convince him it's a good plan. So off they trot onto the ship, not wearing helmets for some reason. Weird. Anyway, Spock goes off to do a thing to lock out the AI, and they're going to do another thing that's going to kill it or something. But of course it turns out that the guy, Gant, is actually the AI. He's actually filled up with nanites like Leyland was, in a twist that maybe some kids who've never seen a TV show might not see coming. Anyway, monologues a bit, and then him and Michael have a shooty fight, and eventually Spock gets back just in the nick of time and tries to help, but Gant's super strong and just tosses him aside like he's a ragdoll. And then Michael has time to grab a phaser, and she shoots a big hole in him, and then the nanites all pour straight out of him just before they get to Michael. Spock manages to soak them to the floor with magnets. Now they know that Control wants to stop Michael specifically, but why? And back in the Discovery, Mike's filling in the crew about the threat of Control's alien bads and how they can take over people and whole ships, and then they realise that all of Section 31's been taken over and is actually out to get them, and they're going to be chased. Michael suggests that actually they should just blow up the Discovery, and despite everyone looking a wee bit confused, Pike's yeah, okay, whatever, let's call the Enterprise and just do a big boom on the ship. Oh, and I nearly forgot that meanwhile on the ship, Stamets was having a bit crap time of being dumped, so Tig, the stand-up comedian, the engineer lassie, Jet, tells him that, he needs to cheer up a bit and get over it, and everyone else acts really badly in the worst scene ever, and then she goes and tells the Doctor pretty much the same thing. So yeah, that happened, and yeah, it wasn't very good. So what did I think? Well, This week, much like a lot of this season, has been kind of a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, there was one plot line that was really quite interesting and really well done, and there was another that was kind of meh, and there were some subplots that were kind of flavour stuff, but honestly, as I said, I didn't really like them very much. So, I mean, let's start with the good stuff. Let's start with Captain Pike, Captain Melty Pike. Now, okay, right, I have to say that like as soon as they got like the Time Crystal Monastery place and they said that Pike was going to go down, it was pretty evident that they're going to be working some of his existing like timeline from the original series into this. I mean, what do we actually know about Pike? Only what was in the cage and in the menagerie. And according to like the Discovery storyline, we're way past the cage because we've already been to Talos 4 and met Vina, and they established that that had happened way before now. So we've gotten to the point now where he's not been radiationed and crippled yet, but we knew that's coming up because of the episode The Menagerie, and that's set like maybe 8 or 9, 10 years after this. So like while the build up was a wee bit slow and it helped with like some of the tension, and there was it reminded me a little bit of like Luke going into the cave like vibe from Empire Strikes Back. But I have to say that I thought Anson Moon was really, really good in this. I mean, he's been good all season, and there was a lovely touch of like sincerity to him here. I mean, especially with like his haunted looks and pain, like when he's actually confronted with knowing that he's going to basically have a horrible, horrible accident and being confined to like a life support machine, and it's only going to be a few years from now. I mean, obviously, folk who've watched the original series know that it does end up a little bit happier for him in the end. But I mean, even so, I really liked this stuff. I thought it was really good. I also really like that they've been reusing actors again. It's not a bad thing, but it's the same guy who played Tanavik in this, who played like Col and Col's dad in like previous episode. I mean, I imagine it's also probably cheaper that you've got the same actor, so you don't have to like completely do a new molds and new remoldings on his face for all the prosthetic stuff and the makeup. And he's clearly a good actor because they all seem like different characters. But they also brought back this dude from the first couple of episodes. I mean, I don't actually exactly remember, but I haven't gone back and checked if he was definitely in the first couple of episodes. But I think that's a cool idea. Although it was a bit obvious that he was clearly going to be Control. And also, how cool was that little like Saru face rock transition moment? I really liked that. I mean, it amused me. It was a bit cheesy, but I like that kind of stuff. It's a bit like that amazing shot on The Fall where it goes from like the priest's face to the desert. I mean, you've seen The Fall, right? If you've not, go watch The Fall. Go watch The Fall. It's amazing. It's amazing. Watch it. Watch it today. But wow, this week had some issues. Let's start with the subplots. Okay, right. First off, the Ash and Lorel subplot. Okay, we've got the whole dynamic of Tyler Ash, meeting up with his ex baby mama, and she's clearly still like cares about him, and like he still fancies Michael now, and she knows that, and that's all fine. I mean, that's okay. That's pretty good, like human social Klingon drama. It's all okay, but it's so written bluntly as hell. I mean, it's really like really flat and blunt and obvious. And again, it's like what kind of bugs me is like the end of season one, Ash left with her, and even if he never got back to like his personality of Vok and actually felt like the same care for her that he had before, they've supposed to be living and working together for months and more, setting up the Klingon Empire. But this week, everything's just baby, 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 Michael, 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 and it came across as boring and dull. I mean, do they not have anything else to talk about apart from Michael? I mean, come on. That's one of the problems with the show. It can't get away from it being all about Michael every 2 seconds. Everyone's talking about Michael. Everything that happens revolves around Michael. Every decision gets made by Michael. And it just seems kind of silly. But even worse, I mean, God, there was that whole stuff with Tig Notaro. Now, I actually like Tig Notaro. I think her stand-up's really funny. I mean, she's a genuinely good comedian. I mean, I think the whole monotone, deadpan delivery stuff and your can't be bothered attitude works a real treat on stage. And she was also really good, and that whole shtick really worked on like Transparent. But on Discovery, it comes across as kind of flat and awful. I mean, I hate to say it, but given the writing direction that she had on this, she comes across as a really bad actress who hasn't got any range, who's basically just reading her lines in the style as she would if she was on stage, and it just comes across as really kind of rubbish. What's more, like the scenes were absolutely terrible and really painfully cringy to watch. I mean, in the first one, it was really just badly edited. I mean, this weird semi-montage of everyone laughing around a table rather than actually a scene of people sitting around a table talking and just genuinely interacting. And then, like, Reno just plucks herself down and like moans at Stamets, and it's not funny, it's not endearing. And then later in the other scene, she goes to Hugh and basically says, "Look, make up your ex. I need things to run smoothly in my department." And it just comes across as bad and cringy and difficult to watch. I mean, in some ways, kind of amusing the fact that this is an interesting landmark from like Star Trek because it's like a pairing of like a lesbian and a gay guy being played by a lesbian and a gay guy talking. It's probably like in one-on-one scene about relationships, and it's probably the first time that's actually happened on Star Trek, but it kind of goes as well as you'd expect on this show, and it's clunky and it's kind of forced and flat. And yeah, so please, less bad writing, please. In season 3, if they do get the season 3, please write the queer scenes a bit better, because this just comes across as bad. And as to like the Michael and Spock stuff, I mean, sure, the premise was okay, if a little bit, yeah, whatever. And what I mean is, and this is something that I've noticed a lot, especially in the last couple of episodes. I mean, what I mean is now that when every time Michael seems to have an idea, everyone else just kind of goes, oh, yeah, whatever, and agrees with her, and she just gets to go off and do whatever she wants. I mean, as I said in the review, Gant being the bad guy wasn't exactly a surprise, and when it came down to it, it wasn't a shock because and we've got even more of that like kind of Terminator stuff. Like you remember last week I was talking about how the bit reminded me of Terminator Salvation. Well, now we've got nanites versus magnets, which literally happened in Terminator Genesis. So, and it's an awful film. So thanks a lot for reminding me that that film exists. Anyway, Control like has loads of opportunity in here to like zap Michael with nanites, loads, but then instead he does his big Bond villain monologue and then doesn't, and then there's a big fight at the end, which was kind of like the Arium fight from a few weeks ago, and it felt a bit clunky and stagey. It also never feels like Michael's in any real danger because we've established that it's Michael and she's never going to be in that real danger. And what's more, causes a bit of a problem because we've established that her mum will pop up and save her using the time machine if she's in that much of a bad deal. Now, sure, something bad happened last week and the time machine was destroyed, but we don't know what order her mum's been jumping back. I mean, has it just been chronologically? Because her mum said she's been forward and seen everybody die and all kinds of things. So you have to assume that potentially her mum could still jump back and save her at any point because that's how time travel works. It isn't linear. It doesn't work that way. And they haven't established it because that would be complicated. And yeah, well, I suppose writing and thinking about these things and, it's this show. So yeah, whatever. And lastly, the whole Michael wanting to blow up the Discovery thing. I mean, another great yeah, whatever moment, because surely that would be the last resort. They've just said they've got the spore drive. They can literally jump from one side of the galaxy to the other. They can jump into the mirror universe if they need be. But instead, she just goes, nah, let's not try running away. Let's not try meeting up with people and sorting out a better plan. Let's just blow up this ship now. And you're like, okay. I mean, it's not like they can jump millions of miles away and then give themselves a bit of time to try out a few things and set some stuff up. Like, it just seems a wee bit daft. But instead, she goes, I say this, the writers go, we want everyone to go along with what Michael says. So, yeah, whatever. Anyway, still, we theoretically got the ship about to blow up, although that's a bit unlikely because it would contradict, like, Calypso, which was on the Short Trek episodes. But anyway, it's a good cliffhanger for next week. So, till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.